I grew up, I was born in East London, in Hackney, East London, which is a very diverse, very poor place. But what that did to me, I think, was it underscored the fact that there are different ways of seeing the world and different ways of experiencing the world. And so I think I always had that sort of interest in other cultures. And I did my first degree was at London University in social anthropology. And I loved it. It was a fantastic degree. And I finished that degree and I thought, I want to put this into practice. So I lived and worked in Bosnia just after the war. I lived in Mostar, which is a very interesting place. I then spent some time, a long time in a northern town called Brčko, which joined the two halves of the Republika Srpska and was a scene and a site of very, very heavy ethnic cleansing during the war. And then I came back to the UK, then I went to Sarajevo. So I think that really sparked my interest in international relations, international security, and the transformative nature of war and how it can upend and destroy lives, but transform regional and sometimes global orders. You think about the transformative nature of conflict. Think about the end of the Second World War, the end of the First World War, the collapse of old empires, new sets of interstate relations. International relations covers all of that. It covers international conflict, war, peace, diplomacy. And obviously being here in Vienna, where you have so many international organizations, and it's a site of intersection between, Central Europe, West Europe, East Europe, etc. So geographically, it's a very interesting place to be. So I think that's where the interest came from. And then obviously when I got back to the UK, I did a master's and then a PhD in international relations and then established my career in the UK for 2 decades plus in the field of international relations. When you have major war, you have new forms of international relations form. After the end of the Second World War, you had what were called the Bretton Woods institutions, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the United Nations, etc. These existed during the Cold War and also underpinned the post-Cold War era. And the post-Cold War era, if we can define it, was really linked to globalization, the Washington Consensus, and American power, the role of America in the international system. So in today's world, we are in a more multipolar international system with other revisionist powers and an increased exhaustion on the part of America to uphold the liberal international order. So this has all kinds of really interesting ramifications, not least for European politics. If you think about European politics, geopolitics, for the last 70 to 80 years, it's been characterized by the NATO relationship. In other words, America's strategic superintendence over European security. With the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the return of great power war in the European continent, and coupled with the pulling out of American security guarantees in the last few years, under the Trump administration in particular, this has radically changed the nature of European geopolitics. So I think one of the most pressing issues in Europe, at least, will be the influence of an American-light security order and how the European states respond to that, both individually but also collectively, because we have various supranational institutions like the EU, but there are also bilateral and multilateral institutions too. So I think one of the most defining aspects of European politics going forward is how Europe collectively does or does not respond to an American-light security order. Well, I have established myself in international relations as an expert on American foreign policy. In fact, I have a 4th edition of a book coming out next year on exactly that, available in all good bookstores, by the way. And I've long studied and published on American grand strategy, European geopolitics, European politics, the politics of the EU, great power competition, and those kind of areas. So I think one thing that I can bring, and I think what the new international relations program will bring here at MU, will be a focus on those issues. Corporations, businesses, leaders will need going forward students and people in their organizations that are acutely conscious of these issues. You cannot be in this world without having a cognizance of the bigger structures that you operate in. And what we take for granted rests on all kinds of conditions which we often don't see. So we have to understand those conditions, how, as those conditions change, it can change our world, sometimes in profound ways, good and bad. So a student doing the course here in international relations will leave with those skills. He or she will leave with the skills where they can read a balance sheet or look at a map or pick up the Financial Times or The Economist and understand immediately the bigger picture. And in this world of the AI revolution, in this world of deep transformation, employers and businesses and the world in general requires that kind of flexibility. So I'll bring my decades-long experience in the field of international relations, plus the networks. We'll have external speakers, we'll have business leaders, political leaders coming to MU, working with us to really shape the leaders of tomorrow. So why did I come to Modul University? I think there are a number of factors. The first factor is the scale of ambition here at Modul. The scale of ambition seeks to create a new international relations department that will work with leading figures in the field globally and bring them here to give guest lectures. The scale of ambition seeks to really capitalize on those networks, to work with business leaders, politicians, political leaders, peace campaigners, thinkers, intellectuals at the very, very cutting edge of their field and bring that experience to all of our students in IR at Modul University. So the scale of ambition for me really attracted me to that. The second major factor was if you're doing international relations in Europe, what other city would you want to do international relations in? Not only is Vienna one of the most beautiful, civilized cities you can find in Europe, beautiful architecture, cafes, streets, but it also has long been, for many decades, the center, in many ways, of international relations. We have some of the highest concentration of international organizations here. We have diplomats. So the policy networks, the practitioners that our students will meet and are meeting as a result of choosing us is unprecedented. I can't think of a better location to do international relations. For me, the bigger picture is really related to what underscores and underpins those trends. If there was one thing I would like our students to understand and to leave with is the fragility of civilization. Much of what we take for granted rests, as I already said, on certain sets of conditions, and those things can change very, very quickly. So I think one of the big things that I'd like to bring to my students is that sense of the contingency of the present, and to understand the trends that can change the present in ways that are sometimes very, very profound. So for me, international relations, why it's such an interesting subject, is it links multiple levels of analysis into the human condition, from the global to the regional, to the national, to the local, and then out again, and how all these things are interrelated. So I think that's the real key that international relations as a subject brings. And that's why IR is such an appealing subject for employers and businesses. And all the indications show that those things will only grow stronger as we move forward in an increasingly diverse but transforming continent in Europe. There are top skills, but what I would say are skills in general that allow you a better life. The first skill, I would say, and it's something I encourage my students, is to listen. Is to listen to people. Human beings are complicated creatures with complicated emotions, and we're all emotional, and we all have needs and wants and desires. Sometimes we don't even know what those things are. So I'd say one of the big skills I try to inculcate in my students is listen, to be respectful, and to also be humble. No matter how powerful or weak you may be, humbleness and humility are very, very powerful tools of personhood. They allow you to operate in the world in a way that can generate really interesting experiences. Number two, another skill that's really important is application and self-discipline. Self-discipline. So the students that we have here, I think, bring that self-discipline to engage with the material, to read stuff, to really think about those things. And because we have such a diverse student base from all kinds of countries, from all over the world, it almost inculcates that approach amongst our students. We have students from all over Europe, all over the world that bring sometimes incredible stories with them. So I think that, again, is a very appealing thing we have here at Modul, where we have such a diverse student body that bring those experiences to bear on their learning journeys. The third area, it's a cliche, but it happens to be true, is critical thinking, is to inculcate the skill of critical thinking, to interrogate sources. When you hear things, especially in today's social media world of saturated social media, is to have a critical mind, look at the sources, look at alternative viewpoints, have that multi-perspective view of the world. So I think those three key things, humility and humbleness, self-discipline and critical thinking, are some of the core skills that you'll take on your life journey wherever you end up at any age. And again, are hugely appealing to employers, to policymakers, and to the world that awaits you. International relations at Modul University offers many things. I think the first and most obvious thing is its location. It's a fantastic location in Vienna, the site of many, many international organizations. It's unrivaled in terms of what this city can offer any student of international relations. Our exposure, our networks, our existing networks across Europe means that policymakers, business leaders, politicians are coming to us to work with us on our international relations program. We bring a wealth of experience in that sense. The second major area is we are very self-consciously going to work and are working on the area of geopolitics, peace, diplomacy, and international conflict. So I think, again, that the placement here in Vienna at this time, with the advent of great power, war, and competition on the European continent, with the Trump administration and the Americans pulling out of European security, these are very interesting times in Europe. Very interesting times in Europe that are having major ramifications for European politics and geopolitics and the human condition. So again, where would you rather be than here in Vienna at Modul University doing an IR program that is so attractive to employers and businesses globally?